It's time to go beyond the headlines, cause I don't put in overtime just so I can headline. Okay, now it's Fox Sports, I'm live with Renee. Going hard every day, sports rapping every play. Different segments for your favorites, coming at you daily. With positive vibes, yeah, we some game changers. Basketball, football, soccer, with different interviews, you never know who may pop up. Listen, only on Beyond the Headlines, this is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines, this is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines, this is Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Headlines. I'm your host, Renee Washington, and as always, we're presented by Entertainment. We had an Arizona guest on today as we are getting into the NBA and the NFL. Damian Adams. The Real Deal with Damian Adams, co-host of the 33 podcast, freelance sports writer, Damien here on the show for this sports wrap on Beyond the Headlines.
What's up? It's Microphone Rocky, and here's our host, Renee Washington, with our sports wrap covering news, updates, and everything else you need to know around the league.
So here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Damian Adams, host of The Real Deal with Damian Adams, co-host of the 33 podcast, freelance sports.
Hey, what's going on? Thank you for having me on the show. I am so excited to be on Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington. I try to watch each and every week. You do such a good job. I'm so glad that I'm going to get to be a guest on this excellent show.
Do a lot, and I am sure that, but I'm not getting tired of it because look, we're talking sports. You're Damien, and it's Dame time. Okay, so I definitely want to just get into first. What have you been up to? Hopefully you can hear me okay. I know my sound was cutting out for a bit, but what have you been up to lately? New with you that you've got going on?
So I'm still hosting my two podcasts, The Real Deal with Damian Adams and the 3rd and 3 podcast. So The Real Deal with Damian Adams is available on all podcast platforms. I now do it 3 times a week. So if you are a fan of the 3 sports that I cover most, which is boxing, the NFL, and the NBA, I do 3 separate shows dedicated to each sport. So I can go deep into detail on each and every sport for you. So go ahead and subscribe to The Real Deal with Damian Adams. If you are a boxing fan and don't like the NFL and NBA, I got you covered. You like the NFL, I got you covered. If you're just a basketball fan, I got you covered. The 3rd and 3 podcast I do along with Jason Fearman and Nikki Jess, 2 very talented people who know their football for sure. And football is the base of the podcast, but we get to go everywhere. We have trivia. We talk about, like, if there's a topic that leads to other things outside of football, we'll definitely dive into that as well. Like, for example, when the whole thing happened with Urban Meyer and he got caught up at the sports bar with the young lady, that led into a very interesting conversation on the show. So we also have those as well. We do that live every Wednesday night on Facebook Live on the 3rd and 3 podcast page at 8 p.m. Eastern time every Wednesday night. So please go ahead and check that out. And if you can't check it out live, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast as well. So both The Real Deal with Damian Adams and the 3rd and 3 podcast are available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Man, you are staying booked and busy. I love it, but I also like to mention that you have each of your segments are dedicated to something specific. You know, I think that's across different sports. With your shows, I know. And that's what it's all about. So yeah. I love that. I love that. I'm not sure. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm not sure what's going on, so that's odd. But look, let's get right into it. Let's discuss the NBA, specifically what's going on. As we are in the very early parts of the season, I keep telling people that there is a lot of basketball left to be played. So I'm not going to make any definite decisions on anything except one. There's one thing I can make a decision on right now, and that's who is going to be the MVP. And if it is not Steph Curry, I'm rioting, I'm boycotting. I don't know what. Okay, so just looking specifically at Steph's start to the season, I mean, we just saw him make the Nets look like cones. The Brooklyn Nets are a team that people have as a favorite to come out of the East. Some people as a favorite to win it all. And Steph Curry was doing whatever he wanted in that game. You've been most surprised or enjoying most about Steph's game so far this season?
Yeah, Steph Curry having the Warriors in first place in the Western Conference has definitely been a surprise. And this is without Clay, who's scheduled to come back very soon. So when you think about the fact that Steph Curry is able to do this right now, and you mentioned the Brooklyn Nets, even without Kyrie, people still have them favored to come out the Eastern Conference. So when you think about the fact that Steph Curry and the rest of those Warriors with Gary Payton second, and you think about Jordan Poole and Draymond Green, those guys, and the rest of that team is pretty young around Steph and Draymond, and outside of Andre Iguodala, of course. To have that young core around Steph and Steph being able to bring this team to this level, you're right. Right now, he should be the runaway MVP. And if he continue to play this way at this level, and they say they finish the season top 2 or 3 in the Western Conference, and he continues to play like this, there's no way you can't say he's not the MVP. Like, it's phenomenal what he's doing. And it's funny now because it makes you feel old because you're starting to hear stats like Steph Curry is the oldest player to do this. Like, when did this happen? Yeah. When did, like, really? Like, it was a couple of weeks ago, he was the oldest player to drop 50 points and have 10 assists in a game. It's like, wow, we're at that stage now with Steph Curry.
Right.
So it really is making you seem like it's just like, oh man, we all getting old out here. But Steph Curry's doing phenomenal things. So I definitely agree with you on that he should be the MVP, and that's very surprising. But the biggest surprise in the NBA might be in your neck of the woods. Your Washington Wizards out there balling right now. Like, I was very shocked by this. I had to give a shout out to your sister Ashley Baker because I was teasing her a lot, because she was always talking about don't sleep on them Wizards, don't sleep on the Wizards. And now sending little memes of me sleeping. Like, this is what I'm doing on the Wizards right now. I'm definitely not looking forward to them, but they have come out and proved her right. They are balling. Bill, Dinwiddie, Kuzma doing his thing, Montrezl Harrell. So the Washington Wizards might be my biggest surprise in the NBA so far.
Okay, well, I definitely want to get into the Wizards in more detail. But as you're talking about going back to the Warriors, because these two teams, the Warriors and the Wizards, be sitting at number 1 right now, and looking at how they've been playing, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So as you talk about, you're sharing the fact that is a healthy part with the Warriors. Forget whole name, but a player that has been killing it playing so well. So Gary Payton II honestly might be one of my biggest surprises from the Warriors, because as you mentioned, we kind of expect, even though Steph's getting older, which is weird to even say, we expect Steph to be able to knock down big shots. We expect 37-point performances, but to see Gary Payton II, who was cut at one point and brought back into the team, and now being a name that you have to watch out for, that's what makes the Warriors so dangerous. He's just explosive. So I agree with you. The Warriors are a team that is a team to beat, without a doubt. Who do you think? Well, it's definitely Gary Payton, but who do you think, or what do you think makes them so hard to defend? I'm curious to know your take on this and seeing if it's anything like I was saying. What makes the Warriors so hard to beat right now?
So right now, you think about with Steph Curry, when you have someone like that as the lead guy on the team who can facilitate the offense through the point guard position, but also can be the guy who's running around all these screens, him being a focal point makes it so hard to guard them because he does so many different things. So when you think about other point guards who are the focal points of their teams, they always have the ball in their hands. So this is no disrespect to those guys. So you think about somebody like Damian Lillard, for example. He always has the ball in his hands. So okay, we have to make sure we try to get the ball in his hands, or we double team him on screens, or we switch on screens. It's not easy, but it's also something that you can point to and say, we need to do this against them. With the Warriors, because Steph is so good off the ball, and you can have Draymond Green bring the ball down, or Andre Iguodala bring the ball down, it makes it so hard to guard them because now you got to worry about Steph doing all these different things, and you have other players stepping up. You mentioned Gary Payton II. Gary Payton II isn't the best offensive player, right? But because of the attention that Steph Curry brings, you get alley-oops going to Gary Payton II because he's so explosive. And you get Draymond being able to be a facilitator of the ball to a Jordan Poole or to Gary Payton II when he does have that open shot, to Steph Curry, Andre Iguodala when his shot is going down. So because of Steph Curry bringing so much attention in different ways, it opens up the floor for everybody else, including Andrew Wiggins, for example, being able to hit threes. So it makes them so hard to guard because Steph Curry is a focal point in so many different ways.
Bingo. And first of all, I figured out it is storming in my area. Okay. So apologies. Apparently, wherever I live, every time it storms. So I was like, there's got to be a reason. When I peeked out, I just peeked outside for a moment. I'm like, there it is. But it's cool. Whatever. We'll roll through it. So I think you hit it right on the head, in that it's hard to stop the Warriors because you can't just focus on one thing. You don't know what to expect from the Warriors. They can beat you in many ways. They move the ball so well offensively, and even I was talking, actually, Ashley Baker, who you just brought up, I was talking to her about this a couple days ago. You have to defend Steph Curry anywhere on the floor. When you think about past super and just other superstars in general, someone I always use like Shaq is a good example. You really had to focus only on Shaq, only around the basket. That's it. Anywhere on the perimeter, you don't have to worry about Shaq. Steph, you got to worry about Steph anywhere. And not even just in around the three-point line. As soon as he crosses midcourt, he's pulling up from the end of the net. He's pulling up for anywhere on the court. You literally always have to keep an eye on him because you don't know when he's going to shoot. And then on the other side, when you have players around him that are constantly able to keep moving, getting to the basket, Andre Iguodala, Draymond Green, they see the floor so well. They have the passing ability. And then the Warriors are playing defense this year, which is something they weren't always doing in the past. That used to be a liability of theirs. But now it's something that consistently they're getting stops, and it's turning into easy buckets on the other end. And then you look at the fact that in transition, they're probably going to pull up from three. They're not getting in the basket like we were taught growing up. Yeah. In transition, you run the floor, get to the spot, beat them to the spot. No. We don't know what spot they're going to. How do you do? So it's crazy to watch them right now. I'm obviously a Lakers fan, but I've been openly saying I have been enjoying watching the Warriors because they have been phenomenal. And shifting over to the East, the Wizards, we got to talk about them sitting at that number one spot because it is a big surprise. What surprises you most about the Wizards so far from what you've seen?
Well, you mentioned how the Warriors are playing defense. The Wizards are out here playing defense right now, and I definitely didn't expect that. That's been a weakness for them for quite some time, just over these past few years. And coming into this year with the players they picked up, those players aren't known as defensive players. You didn't think of Kyle Kuzma as a defensive player. Montrezl Harrell was actually thought of as a defensive liability. So the fact that they were able to put these guys on the team together, and together they play defense well, is very surprising. They're actually 7th in the league in points allowed, only allowing 103 points per game this year. That's a big key to their success. So even if they're having an off game offensively, they can hold it down defensively, just like the Warriors. And the Warriors have somebody in Gary Payton II who is maybe the best perimeter defender in the league. Like, he definitely got that from his dad. And with the Wizards, they don't have anybody who you point to as, oh, we know that guy's a shutdown defender. So it's very surprising that as a team, they've been this good defensively.
I honestly, couldn't agree more, because that is a group that defensively was terrible at times. You watch their defensive rotations in all seriousness, and like I looked at in the bubble and last season, their defensive rotations, how they were switching on picks, they were a terrible job. It's just they were on a different page. They were definitely disconnected, and they weren't playing like a team. And actually, out to our good friend Ellie Brodus jumping in saying the Wizards are benefiting from addition by subtraction. Ooh. I agree. I do think they've got more depth, which helps. When you look at what they got out of Russell Westbrook, they got more depth. So now you have players like a Montrezl Harrell who can come off the bench. You've got players in KCP, Kuzma. Obviously, Dinwiddie's been a great addition. But then on the coaching side, with what Wes Unseld Jr. has brought and actually having stability, consistency, leadership, this is a group that is playing like a team. They're playing great basketball because they're playing together. It's not like everybody's on different pages. Offensively, defensively, even when they're down 19 points, doesn't matter. The Wizards are getting right back into it. So where do you see the Wizards? Again, it's November that we're having this conversation, but I love to do this speculation. Where do you see the Wizards come the end of the season? Do you think they can maintain this? Do you think they're going to be a shoo-in to be a top team in the East?
Oh, that's so hard to say with the Eastern Conference, because you have some other teams in the Eastern Conference who aren't playing up to their level right now, who we know are going to be better. Look at Milwaukee. Milwaukee right now is 7-8 coming until tonight. You know they're going to be better in this. They're going to eventually hit their stride. Next thing you know, they're going to go on one of those 10-game, 12-game winning streaks, and they'll be at the top of the Eastern Conference. So you'll have to deal with Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Chicago looks great right now, Miami. So I can't say that the Wizards are going to stay at the top of the Eastern Conference, but I definitely think there'll be a definite playoff team. And when I say definite playoff team, I mean top 6, because we know now with the play-in game, if you're 7 or 8, that doesn't mean you're definitely in anymore. So I think there'll be a team that's in the top 6 where you don't have to worry about the play-in game this year. But I can't say they're going to stay at the top, because those other teams I mentioned, as the season goes along, you're going to see them get into their groove. You'll see the Wizards fall down just a little bit, but the improvement that you see is real.
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, they reached the playoffs last year. I was literally just talking about this too. Reached the playoffs last year for the first time in years. I think it had been since like 2018. And this season, I think that's the biggest thing is we started. John Wall at the time, of course. Pieces, and they've now been able to build around, adding more leadership, adding more depth, adding coach. And it's a group that is dangerous to watch. They are very, of course, they don't really build this team. Go with him, they can go if he's not playing, he's out, he's no what. Agree with Steven throughout the game where they are still playing. I don't know if they're going to be able to sustain the rest of the season. It's a long season, but I definitely think that they're going to be a playoff team for sure. So at this point, then, who 2 favorite teams coming out of the West?
My 2 favorite teams out of the West right now.
Who do you think is going to be in that Western Conference final?
Oh, the Western Conference is definitely for grabs this year. Like the Eastern Conference is actually deeper than the Western Conference this year, which we haven't seen that since like Jordan pretty much, where the Eastern Conference is deeper. But looking at the Western Conference, there's some factors that you have to put in there. So look at the Clippers, for example. The Clippers, Paul George is playing at an MVP level right now. If Kawhi comes back, which is an if, we don't know if Kawhi, he's very close to the vest when it comes to his injuries. And we don't know when he's going to come back, if he's going to, say like, I'm going to come back at this time, how many games he's going to play. But if he does come back, the Clippers would be my favorite to come out of the Western Conference. But if Kawhi does not come back, you got to look at Phoenix, who's on a 10-game winning streak right now, like very quietly balling out right now out here in Phoenix. Golden State, of course, like we mentioned earlier, Klay comes back. That makes them automatically one of the favorites if they continue to play like this. I also like Denver if they can get healthy. We all know Nikola Jokic is balling. If they get Jamal Murray back, that makes that really, really a legit squad.
Yeah.
Jamal Murray has to come back in a major way, though. He can't come back and be less than what he was last year. If he's 100% and Michael Porter Jr. can come back healthy eventually, Denver Nuggets will definitely be in there as well. But you asked me for 2, so I'm gonna stick to 2. And I'm gonna say if Kawhi comes back, it's the Clippers. But if not, I'm gonna go with Phoenix, and I'm gonna go with Denver if Jamal Murray comes back healthy.
Okay. First of all, let me pause. Can you hear me okay now? I swapped some things for the storm.
Okay. I can
you hear me
hear
good?
you. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, because I'm gonna say this point. I want to make sure you can hear me. Okay.
Okay.
Lakers and the Warriors. I'm not panicking. I'm not panicking on the Lakers. That's why I want to make sure you can hear me. I'm not cutting it out. Okay. Stupid. The storm won't let me get this out, but I had to make sure. I even got my Lakers yellow. This is like a yellow room, not by Lakers choice. It just is a coincidence. But anyways, I'm not panicking on the Lakers because I think that, to me, this is a group that has had so many changes and they're still not healthy. It's going to take them time to work back in. You know, I was at Charlotte in overtime. LeBron was not playing. You know, when you look at the team, they haven't had a chance to play together 100% healthy yet. So I am definitely thinking that this group is still, this is their preseason. They're older. Yeah. They are veterans. They know what it takes. In my opinion, they are playing like this February, March. Okay, I'll be confused. But I definitely, thank you, Mike Patton, with the right points. They are going to be fine. You know, I don't know if they're going to win it all. I haven't seen enough right now to know, like, yes, of course I'm going to hope they win it all because I'm a Lakers fan, but I don't know enough to convincingly say the Lakers are going to win it all. But I will say I think they're going to be, if I had to pick, it's them and the Warriors coming out of the West. Now, Of course, as you mentioned, we don't know how players like Jamal Murray are going to come back. Damien Lillard has been struggling. And honestly, with him coming off of the season and the offseason, even of people questioning, should he stay? It's starting to look like he should have moved a little while ago because he's not looking like the same Dame time. It's looking like he's starting to burn out a little bit. So I think when the Lakers get back healthy, THT's coming back, LeBron's coming back, and they're all able to play together, practice together, get those reps together, I think they're going to be a top team. So I'm putting those two out of the West. Now, I never remind me a lot like the Clippers, where they will continue to fall short. Injuries, whatever the reason may be, they will continue to fall short. But I, of course, want to put them in that top two. I'm going to go with the the Bucks. Not the Celtics. The Bucks, and I think it's going to be a sleeper. Like, I could see. I don't know if the Wizards are top two. I asked this question and I don't even know the answer to it. I don't know that the Wizards are top two for me. I'm going to say it might be a sleeper in someone like, if the Sixers are able to figure something out with Ben Simmons and either move him and bring someone else in, that they could sit in that number 2 spot. Someone like Miami. I'm not fully sold on the Nets, though, to put them in that number 2 spot. So I'm going to say Wizards. I'm going to say Wizards and Bucks. Because I think that someone else is going to be somebody that's a surprise. Like, I think the Bucks are expected, of course, coming off the championship. I think that number 2 team is going to be more of a surprise. So that's, I think, where I'm going. But what has been your biggest surprise so far this season? What have you found in the NBA? And then we'll shift over into the NFL shortly.
So, biggest surprise so far, like I said, I mentioned the Wizards earlier, but Chicago, I expected to be better, right?
Yeah.
Like, I thought they would be better than they were last year with the addition of Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, another year with Nikola Vucevic being in that system. I thought for sure that that would be a team that would improve, but I thought they would have problems defensively. Again, it's another team where the individuals aren't great defenders. Outside Alonzo Ball, Zach LaVine not known as a good defender, DeMar DeRozan not known as a good defender, Vukovic known as a bad defender, and the fact that they are good on defense really has surprised me. They're top 10 in defense this year. And when you look at how Lonzo's playing, me as a Pelicans fan, it makes me sad every day that we let Lonzo Ball go for pretty much nothing to Chicago. And he is balling. And the fact that he's able to facilitate the ball to DeMar DeRozan, to Zach LaVine, to Vucevic, for those guys to score in such easy ways. I love what Chicago is doing. And they could be a team that you talked about, a surprise team in the Eastern Conference, being that second team. That could be Chicago because they have everything there as far as scoring the ball, and they continue to play defense like this. This could be the team that surprises people.
Oof, yeah. That's why I feel like the East is much more wide open for that reason, because in the West, we kind of have some expectations on teams, the Lakers, the Warriors, the Clippers, the Sun, I don't know after that, to be honest, but we have more expectations in the West. In the East, we don't really know happen that we're not sure what are the Bulls going to look like 2 months from now. What are the Wizards going to look like? Can they continue this throughout the rest of the season? What will happen with the Nets and the Sixers? Will we see Ben Simmons or Kyrie Irving? I know there has been talk about moving Ben Simmons. There's been a lot. Different conversation. So my last NBA question for you: who will we see first, Kyrie or Ben?
Wow, that's a tough one. I have to go with Ben Simmons because Ben Simmons has, outside of himself, he doesn't have anything else holding him back from playing. With Kyrie, those vaccination rules don't look like they're going to be changing anytime soon in New York. And Kyrie is a man you might not understand the principle that he has, but he is a man of principle. So he's going to stick to his guns. So for me, I think we're going to see Ben Simmons first, even if it's not in the 76ers uniform. We just saw Mike Patton from Touring the AFC South podcast mention Jaylen Brown for Ben Simmons, which would be pretty crazy. I agree with him on that one. That would be a crazy trade. But if you get Jaylen Brown along with Steph Curry, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid, the 76ers would be really, really dangerous. And I do think Boston needs to shake it up as well. So I wouldn't be mad at that trade because Ben Simmons along with Jason Tatum and that crew would actually help Boston as well, because Boston's kind of stuck in a rut right now. So I do think they need to shake some things up as well. But if that happens, I could see the 76ers definitely being a team there because defensively, we know they're going to be sound. Even this year, when Joel Embiid has been playing, I know he's been out with COVID, but when he has been playing, they've still been good, even without Ben Simmons. So they are able to replace Ben Simmons with just a capable player who can offensively not be scared in those fourth quarter moments like we saw Ben Simmons last year in the playoffs. That could be a team that could be dangerous right there. So, but to get back to your original question, I think we see Ben Simmons first, and it probably is on a different team, but he plays before Kyrie.
I agree. That's a good point. Like the COVID rules aren't changing, so why would Kyrie? Making a trade happen, finding a team. Talking about the Bulls for a short time. He definitely was weighing in with his thoughts on the Bulls, and also specifically around needing a power forward, playing supreme small ball now, and it's definitely not sustainable. I agree. And then, of course, Celtics are on the other end. we've been talking about you for too long, and you're not a team that's has any chances right now of winning the Eastern Conference. Period.
Yeah, no, true. And to LA Broadus' comment, we've talked about it in private. I was watching when Ricky Rubio was playing against the Knicks. I was texting him that night because Ricky Rubio was going nuts. I was like, man, what is going on right now? He's out here having the night of his life. And the Cavs are for real. They have a legit squad. I love their mentality. They are some dogs. I think they're another team. They're too young to put them in the conversation with Miami, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, the 76ers, if they get a player like a Jaylen Brown. I don't think the Cavs are there yet, but they are a team that's going to be somebody who there's always a team you don't want to play.
Exactly.
Like they're going to be that team that you don't want to play come playoff time.
Or they're a team that could be set up to make an upset in that sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's shift over to the field. Let's get out of the gym and out to the field. Looking at the NFL, I'm up first. Same question I asked you actually on the NBA side, but as we're getting into week 11, I know the Falcons game is going on now. I'm not itched to watch that. What has surprised you so far this season in the NFL?
Man, and this NFL season as a whole has just been crazy. I've seen a lot of people say like the NFL season has been drunk and needs to get an Uber and go home. Like it's been a wild year so far this year. And the biggest surprise is out here in my neck of the woods, honestly, the Arizona Cardinals. I did not expect them to be in first place, fighting for the 1 seed in the NFC. They're going through a lot right now with injuries, with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins being out. Also, they're starting running back as well. But when they're healthy, they are a legit squad who should be taken seriously as contenders. I did not expect that because going into the year, looking at that division that they're in, the Rams, the 49ers, we finally thought were going to be healthy and back to their 2019 form. And Seattle, who seems to always be in the hunt, just not this year. So we were thinking Arizona might be fourth, not because they were bad, but because that division was projected to be so good. So the fact that they're in first place in that division is a really big surprise right there. That's my biggest surprise in the NFC. AFC-wise, a lot of people are surprised by the Patriots. That was my surprise pick, or my upset pick, I guess you can say, for the playoffs, for the Patriots to make it. So I'm glad they're doing that, making me look good right now. But my biggest surprise in the AFC, my man LA Broadus is listening, has been the struggle of the Browns. I thought the Browns would come in this year and truly take over the AFC North. I picked them to win the AFC North this year. That defense, they added even more weapons to that defense. Offensively, coming into the year, having Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, along with those running backs and that running attack, I thought for sure they would build off the momentum of last season and come into this year and dominate. And that has not happened. And they seem like they're going to fall behind the rest of that division, with the Bengals being another surprise team that's pretty good this year, even though the last few weeks they've been kind of shaky. Let's see if they get back on track this week. So my biggest surprise in the NFC is the good play of the Cardinals. The biggest surprise in the AFC is the bad play of the Browns.
To unpack there, I agree with a lot of what you just said. I definitely think the Browns are whatever expectations you have. I don't care how strong they start. Are kind of where I would expect them to be. You know, it's a really young group. And looking at the fact that they went from, I keep going back to that Packers game. That to me was like one of the biggest tests that they should have won that game. And honestly, of course, the game itself ended up going crazy with 5 missed field goal attempts. But when you look at the way that they have been playing, you know, Joe Burrow coming back, the way he connects with Jamar Chase, this is a young group that I don't expect them to be in the conversation right now. But I think a year, 2 years from now, they can continue to fine tune some things, put a couple more pieces around Joe on offense, tighten up their defense. This is the group that I think baby steps.
Yeah.
The Titans are absolutely one of my biggest surprises because they are a team that when you look over the years, when they get to the playoffs, when you expect things from them and they haven't done it. And this season right now, though, I was not expecting them to be this good, especially once Henry went down. Once he got it and that's it. I'm like, oh, that's it for the Titans. No, the Titans are still moving along. So I think that they are, to see the way that they beat the Rams, the way that the way they've been playing each week, they've been pretty consistent. Which this season, as you mentioned, with it being a drunk season, that is something that is not common for a lot of teams. You look at the Chiefs, they finally played their best football, but the rest of the season they've been struggling. Offensively, they're finally clicking. So I just think it's the biggest surprise to me is the league as a whole. Like, I agree with you. It's been a wild, wild time for anybody that has fantasy teams. I know you're in fantasy football. Anybody in fantasy football, God bless you. Because I don't know how you're picking each week. I mean, if you're doing sports betting, I don't know how you're doing that either each week. Like, this is a season that you are really, really risking it all because anything could literally happen. Even the Patriots. I don't think anybody expected Mac Jones to be playing so well. I don't think anybody expected for Bill Belichick to have the Patriots looking like a Super Bowl caliber team. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to be there, but they are looking primed to be a playoff team, which I don't even think a lot of people would have thought that coming in. So there's a lot of surprises. I don't even know where to begin. Looking back at week 10, we saw Washington beat Tampa Bay. Chase Young goes down. We saw the Rams get annihilated by the 49ers when we just had them come off of a major week of picking up OBJ, picking up Von Miller. Like, we're thinking I had tweeted out they're going to win it all, which, again, it's only 1 week. I'm not going to discard that. What was your biggest, surprise of the week? Because as a whole, there's a lot. But looking back at week 10, what do you consider to be the biggest upset?
Yeah, 49ers taking out the Rams in that way. The 49ers were my pick to win the NFC at the beginning of the year. I thought they would get back to their 2019 form. And I have a few 49ers fans that I know, and I was like, where was this play at all year? This is the reason I picked you guys to win the NFC, because I expected this type of play. I love teams who can win in different ways, and the way that they win is different from the rest of the league now, right? The offenses have been modernized to pass the ball, and that's one of the reasons I like the Browns coming in, is because the Browns, when they're right, and the 49ers, when they're right, are super physical, and they're going to run the ball down your throat. And when they do pass the ball, they can go down the field now because you're so worried about the run. Play action works. Everything opens up down the field. And they beat you up on both sides of the ball. And that's what we saw in that game. The 49ers looked like themselves again. And they beat up the Rams on both sides of the ball. Matthew Stafford I'm not going to lie to you, didn't see much Detroit ball over the past few years. So I can't tell you how good or bad Matthew Stafford was. I just know from what I hear from Detroit fans that they say Matthew Stafford was still good. Detroit was just horrible around him. I'm like, okay, I'll take your word for it. But then in the big games, it seems like Matthew Stafford malfunctions. There was a few plays where it seemed like the battery got took out his back. He didn't know what to do. And so with Stafford, can you trust him come playoff time with this team? Because we know he's better than Jared Goff, right? We know Jared Goff hasn't won a game without Sean McVay. We know Jared Goff isn't that guy. Stafford, though, even though he's an upgrade, is he the guy to get you the victory against the Cowboys or against other teams in the NFC who look real good right now? So that would be a question. If I was a Rams fan or I picked the Rams to win the Super Bowl, I'd be kind of questioning that a little bit. Like, am I worried about Stafford really coming through in a big moment right now? So we'll see.
There was a play in that game. It was a third down. I don't even know what it was. It was in the fourth quarter, and Matthew Stafford ran the ball, did a gallop. He was like, I don't know if I should go or throw. I'm thinking on that play, just run the ball and slide. Just get even if you don't get into the end zone, just slide. Just get as close as you can. Players are trying to get open.
let's say you're cutting out right now, so I couldn't hear
Oh
the.
crap! Just now, get on my soapbox. No, the Rams have been very good at times,
Yeah,
but then at other times they have not been. And so I don't know if he's the guy that can. When we're talking playoffs, it's a different beast. I don't know if he's going to be able to lead them in the playoffs. So we'll see. We'll see on that one. I do want to get your thoughts before we get into the MVP discussion. I know LA Brodus is asking about that. I do want to ask you. I gotta ask the same questions we asked in the NBA, and you kind of said this at the end of this season, though. Who do you have as your top 2 AFC teams at the end of the season?
For the AFC, ooh, the AFC is tough.
We're doing the NFC too, so be prepared.
Yeah. So I'll have to go with Buffalo. I understand Buffalo lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars a couple of days ago, or a couple of weeks ago. And that really put a stain on them for a lot of people. But when you look at Buffalo throughout the season, they still have one of the top offenses and one of the top defenses. They're good against both the run and pass, and they've been better running the ball this year. I think that's a big key for them, is being balanced and not putting everything on Josh Allen's shoulders. So that offense is potent when it's balanced and going well. So I got Buffalo as my favorite in AFC. Tennessee, a lot of people are going to say, why not Tennessee? Tennessee, I think, is going to start to come back down to earth a little bit. Against the Saints last week, they got outplayed by the Saints, but the Saints had some miscues that allowed them to win that game. I think they're going to start getting against teams who don't have those miscues, and they're not going to be able to win those games. They'll still make the playoffs, but I don't see them as a top 2 team. So I'm going to go Buffalo right now. And honestly, the rest of the AFC is just so tight. I wouldn't be surprised if New England is that second best team. Now, of course, they're in the same division, so one of those, they're not going to both have their home playoff game to start off with. But I think that Buffalo and New England, come end of the season, will be the 2 top teams in the AFC.
Okay. I'm still gonna go with the Chiefs in Buffalo because I think, you know what? I think the league messed up by having so many inconsistent teams. I mean, you talk about when Buffalo lost to the Jaguars. Like, every team has lost a game that they should not have. You look at how many teams have like 3 or more losses coming in. It's everybody. It's everybody. So because of that, even though the Chiefs are sitting at 6-4 and they're having a bad season for Kansas City, they are still in the mix. And what the rest of the league needed to do was capitalize on the fact that they were struggling in the first 10 weeks, 9.5 weeks, I'll say, and take advantage of that and climb up the standings. But the Chiefs have the chance of literally still being the top team. They are the top team in their division. And I think they're going to, now in the second half of the season, we're going to see Kansas City football. So I think this is where, as you mentioned, I think Tennessee is going to drop off. I think that the Chiefs, the Bills are going to rise supreme. I do think that the Titans have consistently over the last year struggled getting over that hump of either making it to the playoffs or just at the end of the season, just dropping off altogether. And they make it to the playoffs and not doing as well as they should. So I still think it's Chiefs Bills, to be honest, out of the AFC. I still think they're the 2 teams to beat, especially looking at this past week. Like if they played bad this past week, I'm like, all right, maybe this is it for them. But they're literally won and are now sitting the top in the AFC West, which is a really good division because everybody was sold on the Chargers and the Raiders. And then John Gruden's emails came out and the Raiders went down the toilet. Like all these different teams that we've had such high expectations on, where are they now? Right there with the Chiefs. So Kansas City is going to be a top team. And yes, I know Derrick Henry is scheduled to be back for the playoffs. I still don't know that I'm sold. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm still not sold on Tennessee in the playoffs. I am not. We'll see. We will see. All right. Same question in the NFC. Who's
so
coming
NFC, gotta go Green Bay to start off. They look so good right now. And the key isn't Aaron Rodgers, it's the defense. That defense has been phenomenal. You look at their last few games, they were able to, you mentioned that game where the Cardinals playing against the Packers, and Thursday night here in Arizona, the Cardinals able to win and really slow down the offense with Kyler Murray being healthy in that one. You look at what they did to Russell Wilson last week, shutting them down for 0 points. I know Russell Wilson wasn't 100%, but the fact that he couldn't score at all, couldn't get a field goal, you got to give the Packers defense some credit for that. And that Packers defense continues to play like this with the Aaron Rodgers-led offense. You have to give them the nod as the favorite. And as much as it pains me to say this, and it pains a lot of football fans to hear this, gotta go with those Dallas Cowboys. Those Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys. They looking real good right now. And they had that stinker against Denver, which every team has had this year, especially week 9. Week 9 was nuts. But after that stinker, they came back and whooped on Atlanta last week. You look at the way their defense is playing, that offense behind Dak Prescott. They have a two-headed running attack now with Ezekiel Elliott and my man Pollard. Dallas is a legit team, and we had to take them seriously. It's not one of those, the famous Stephen A., the accident waiting to happen years. It's not one of those years. This Dallas team is for real. So my top 2 teams in the NFC got to go Green Bay and the Dallas Cowboys.
I think that my computer is breaking up right now. The storm is coming. No. Actually, all the Cowboys fans are cheering because the fact you just said Dallas on my show is painful. It's cool. You're allowed to have your opinion. Who do the Cowboys play again this week? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so it's going to be a big one.
Yeah, they play the Chiefs. I think this week is going to be big for them, actually, for both teams. And I'm hoping the Chiefs annihilate them, of course. But I'm already talking about. I get the Titans.
Oh, you got to come back to me, Renee. It's cutting out again.
I'm talking about the Cowboys. My computer doesn't tolerate Cowboys talk, okay? There are certain teams that drop the ball big time. The Cowboys, the Titans being 2 of them. So I'm not fully sold on either of those teams yet, to be honest. So I'm going to go with, I agree with you on the Packers. 1,000% agree with you on the Packers. I think defensively, like you said, if you have a player like Aaron Rodgers, that if you can get your defense playing as well as they've been doing, you win games. And they've been winning for that reason. And he just got a lot of pieces around him. Pick your choice. Who are you going to pass to? Run the ball. Doesn't matter. They can get it done. I'm not sure on that second team. I actually want to put the Cardinals in that next spot. Kyler Murray, of course, being an ankle injury. Those tend to be those nagging injuries, which worries me. He said he's pretty close. Like he said, he's going to be fine. So I'm going to go with them because I loved, even when they lost to the Packers, I was still like, cool. I didn't expect anybody to go undefeated this season and run through the league. I still felt like, okay, this is a loss you can learn from. And then Kyler's injured, and now let's get through that. I think they're in kind of a rut right now, with just a couple things going wrong for them. But I still think they're going to be a top team in the NFC, to be honest. But it could be if the Rams start clicking and figure it out. You get OBJ in the mix. You get your defense tightened up. It could be the Rams. Like you said, though, the Packers are definitely, to me, a shoo-in in the NFC East, especially holding the Seahawks scoreless, which has never happened since Russell Wilson's been playing for the Seahawks. That is phenomenal. Snap, clap, give them their roses, whatever. That's phenomenal. But I agree. Dallas fans are annoying. Y'all enjoy this time. You're coming back to earth with the Titans. Y'all are coming back. Okay, because I still have faith in my Eagles. I'm not writing them off quite yet. Okay, I'm not writing the Eagles off yet. Okay, if you look at
it's crazy. It's crazy you got me on this week because it's Saints Eagles week. So your Eagles are gonna go down this week though. So it's all right. They're looking good. They're gonna go down this week though.
Okay, you're just coming on the show bringing all the negativity, and I'm not for it. Okay. No, but when I look at this, the Eagles are 4-6. The Cowboys are 7-2. There's a lot of games left. There's a lot of winnable games left for the Eagles. Anything could happen in the NFC East. Okay, anything. So
I do like the Eagles. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the Eagles are starting to turn things around. I do like them as a possible playoff team there in the NFC. You look at the bottom of the NFC playoff picture right now. You have Carolina, which, of course, with Cam Newton coming back, is going to add a whole
We
new
didn't talk about
spice.
them.
Yeah, a whole new little spice there to the bottom of the playoff picture. But they're 5-5. So if you're looking at them with the Eagles right there, 4-5, you have San Francisco right there. Atlanta still right there. Like the bottom of the NFC playoff picture is very jumbled. So the Eagles, if they truly get their act together, can make a run. So I'm definitely not against that. Just not this week.
It's happening. Okay. So you bring up Cam Newton. He's back. I know Mike was bringing up Deebo Samuel. I'm not putting these people in the conversation for this discussion, but there have been a lot of players that have been showing out in a phenomenal way. Now, this question is hard, and I don't have an answer for it, but I'm going to toss it to you first while I think of one. Who is going to be MVP?
Man, yeah. This year, because it's been such a drunk year, it's been such a tequila season, it's really hard. Usually by this time of the year, you have like a definitive one or two people that you put up there. With speaking of Tennessee, if Derrick Henry was still healthy, he might be the front runner right now because he was balling so well and everybody else was being so inconsistent. But looking at all the teams and what they're doing, Kyler Murray, if he comes back in time, can definitely be somebody in the MVP picture. Aaron Rodgers has been playing well, but not like an MVP. Aaron Rodgers is not doing what he did last year. And people are really going to hate this. Dak Prescott.
Mm-hmm.
Dak Prescott is looking real good. Dallas Cowboys are 7-2. We saw the difference that he's making with this team this year. When you think about the fact that last year they were not able to function once he got hurt, and now they're 7-2. Now, of course, their defense being better has a lot to do with that as well. But offensively, he is showing why he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in this league. And with the Dallas Cowboys being America's team, he's going to have a lot of votes, and he's going to be they're always on TV. So you think about the voters, they always see Dallas, right? So I think Dak Prescott, because of that, is going to get a lot of votes as well. And with there being no definitive number one, they're going to look to the familiar, and Dallas Cowboys are the familiar. So I think Dak Prescott has a good shot at being MVP.
Don't be surprised if my computer cuts out because, again, I just think it does not tolerate Dallas talk in a positive way. Valid point, though. I will admit Dak, coming off of that gruesome injury last year, has been playing well. So I definitely agree with you there. I like the nod for Kyler. I think because of the fact that Arizona is a team. I think the fact that Arizona is a team, I'm never stressed. What are you talking about? Never. The fact that Arizona is a team that is exceeding some expectations right now, being that they are a top team in the division, in the conference, I absolutely think if Kyler Murray can get back healthy and they win the division, he's an MVP. It's a hard pick because every week it's been somebody different, and it's not as simple as like it's just the quarterback. We said about the Packers. It's not just Aaron Rodgers winning them games. It's not just Dak winning them games. There have been a lot of players. We haven't even talked about Lamar Jackson, the Ravens. A couple weeks ago, I would have said Lamar Jackson is in that top group. But I don't know. It's just been so back and forth. So I'm gonna say Kyler Murray because that actually was the answer I was thinking of when I thought of this question. As of right now, if I had to like fully put that MVP crown on someone, it'd be Kyler. He's balling. Before he got hurt, he's balling and he's looking phenomenal. But there are some like honorary MVPs. Like if Cam can continue this way that he came back last week, coming in getting touchdowns right. I'm back, coming right in, getting touchdowns. He wouldn't be MVP, but he'd be MVP in my book. It's hard, and I agree. It always tends to be a quarterback award, which I agree has to change because there are some guys on the defensive line that When you talk about Derrick Henry and just the way
Cooper
that we've
Kupp
been seeing
this year.
Cooper Kupp, who we have, yeah, I know that Ellie was mentioning him too. There's some receivers, some running backs, some defensive line, like we just don't even give enough credit to because we are so focused on quarterbacks. Josh Allen is another. I like these answers y'all have coming in. Josh Allen is definitely someone that if he can finish out this season and get Buffalo where they should be as a top team in the AFC, could be a different conversation. But we know quarterbacks tend to be the favorite. I'd love for it to not be a quarterback. Probably not going to happen, but I'd love that to happen.
It has to be a special year. Like Derrick Henry was on pace for that type of year before he got hurt. So he could have been definitely, like I said, with the pace of it, not having that main guy, Derrick Henry could have definitely took that mantle and ran with it. No pun intended this year before he got hurt. But Kyler Murray, if he comes back in time, we know high ankle sprains, though, they can be something that could last for a long time. So he might not come back in time or play enough games this year to win it. Josh Allen is a good pick. Buffalo, if they start getting back to winning and they win a few in a row, they rattle off a few games, he'll definitely be in the conversation as well. Crazy thing, Patrick Mahomes. If Kansas City mess around and go on this winning streak and they next thing you know, we look up 4 weeks from now and they're 10-4. You're like, Patrick Mahomes is gonna be right back in the conversation.
Yep. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. And I love it. That's one of the greatest things about, as we talked about the NBA earlier, the NFL this season, both leagues are in a spot right now where it's not as easy to say, oh, this person's going to be MVP. This is going to win it all. There's no shoe-in. There's always something. But there's nobody that we can confidently say, yes, they're going to be in the Super Bowl. Yes, they're going to be in the NBA final. We don't know. Anything is possible. So we are at the halfway point of the NFL. I feel like we're just getting into the best part of the season as teams are making that final push to win their division, to get a playoff spot, to get a wild card spot. And for the NBA, we're still in that. I'm still calling it preseason, guys. This is still preseason. The real season for the NBA does not start until after Christmas. And if you check your calendar, it is not even Thanksgiving yet. It's close, but it's not. And don't be fooled by the Christmas lights and decorations. It's not Christmas yet, so it's still preseason. Hopefully you got that, okay?
Let's see. You cut out again.
As this is something I'm like, who's going to be rookie of the year for any league? But let people know again where they can follow you, where they can check out all that you've got going on. Plug all that you're doing because you're doing some great things.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you again for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. Had a fun time. Thank you for everybody that came in the comment section today and joined the show. Really appreciate you guys as well. You can follow me on all social media platforms at The Real Deal WDA. That's The Real Deal, W as in whiskey, D as in Delta, A as in Alpha. I do most of my social media stuff on Twitter. That's where I'm most active, but you can see some stuff on Instagram as well. TikTok, I'm going to get back to doing more videos on there as well. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little too old for the TikTok, but I'm going to be on there some more and doing more videos. So yeah, The Real Deal, WDA on all social media platforms. My podcast is called The Real Deal with Damian Adams. When you search it, put the full thing like a pimp named Slickback. The Real Deal with Damian Adams. You'll find me on all podcast platforms. That podcast is 3 times a week. So whatever your sport is, if you're a boxing fan, I got you. NFL fan, I got you. Basketball fan, I got you as well. And also the 3rd and 3 podcast, which I do along with Jason Fairman and Nikki Jest every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can subscribe and catch it later or catch it live on Facebook at the 3rd and 3 podcast Facebook page. Thank you again, Renee, for having me on. It was truly a pleasure.
Yeah, I appreciate you joining and being able to weigh in. First of all, TikTok, the fact you said you're too old for TikTok, it's 2021. Nobody is too old for anything. There are grandmas, great-grandmas, great-grandpas, whoever out there TikToking with their walkers and canes. You can do it too. And I cannot believe you just said like a pimp. Wait. Pimp, slick back? Wait, run that by me again?
Yeah, like from the Boondocks right there. You got.
Yes, I cannot. You are hilarious. But I really do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule because, as you just shared, and for those of you that are tuning in, Dame time is every day. There's always a time to
Every day.
tune in and check out the great content. I actually never watched the Boondocks, but I still knew it. So sorry that reference kind of went like here over my head. Like I caught it, but it was like slided back a little bit. It was, yeah. But you're doing great content every day, all the time. So I appreciate you for taking time. For those of you that are tuned in, apologies for some audio issues here and there because it happens, you know, it happens, especially since it's storming outside, which I didn't know was going to happen. But thank you all so much for tuning in again. Give Damien a follow at The Real Deal. WDA with the A is what that stands for. If you can't read that, I got you. The Real Deal WDA to check out all the great content that he's got going on. And for me, as always, you can give me a follow across all my social media pages at Renee P. Wash on Twitter, at Renee P. Washington on Facebook, Instagram. I am not on TikTok, but one day I possibly will be. And then I'll let you know where you can follow me there. But in the meantime, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Keep up with all that we've got going on because we're bringing you more great content each and every week here on Beyond the Headlines presented by Fox Sports. It's been a pleasure for my tremendous guest. I guess you're this way. There you are. My tremendous guest next to me, Damian Adams, and for myself, Renee Washington. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Good luck to your teams this week. Eagles are winning, and I'll see you guys back here next time. Have a
Who
good
that?
Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington.